So the question that comes out, one of the basic questions is, do we have free will? And the name of the game, biblically speaking, is how we choose to run our lives. Is there a place for free will in the world? If you look at just the laws of nature, or what's called the materialist, reductionist view of how the brain works, then there's no place for free will. The fact is, our brain is made up of chemistry and biology and physics, and that will determine how the neurons, the nerves interact. And that would be the case, and that is the understanding of the lack of free will, which you read many books are written. Many persons, de Laplace's famous statement of about 150 years ago, that if we could map the entire universe, we could predict what will happen in a microsecond from now. The fact that we can't map the whole universe, that's our shortcoming. But the mapping does exist. It just doesn't exist we can't grab it. So it seems as if the future is already determined by the present. If the world is materialist, in fact, that is the case. But we're looking for something duality in here. Is there any evidence of a duality? The physical world is totally dualistic. That's what's so ironic about the materialists. They say there's no space for duality. Really? We have wave-particle duality. A particle is like a ping pong ball. It's finite. A wave extends with no specific end to it, no boundary to it. So we know that's the wave energy-matter duality. That energy, a wave, a force, can in fact condense and become matter. So we have duality in the very physical world itself. So to think that there might be a spiritual duality actually fits directly into this. So how does that work? I want to see if I can demonstrate that within, using the naysayers' point of view, the naysayers saying that we don't have free will, I want to use their data to demonstrate that in fact, indeed, we do have free will. And this is how I would understand. How do I understand? How do I discover physics? Do an experiment. How do we discover, as if we're discovering gravity? I take something and I drop it. It goes down. Something big like a stone. I take a feather and it falls down. I take water. It's a liquid and I pour it. It falls down. So I've discovered. I do this. I look for the same type qualitatively of a change or of a phenomena that's over many different types of environments. Things fall down. I've discovered gravity. What I've discovered, that mass attracts mass. And you do this, a simplistic example, which isn't even discovery, but supposing I wanted to make a prediction about the sun, where it will rise. So 10 days ago, I get up and I notice the sun rises in the east. 9 days ago, east. 8, 7, 6, every day I just get up. I see the sun rises in the east. What can I predict about tomorrow? Well, based on the scientific understanding of looking at Lord's observations, I can predict that tomorrow the sun will rise in the east, because that's the way science is done. Now I want to know about free will. That's a different story. Okay, so what do I have to do? How does the brain work? For that I have to work with the brain. So the good news about the bad news of open brain surgery is you can actually stimulate parts of the brain without the pain to the person who's having the surgery who is awake at the time. So I stimulate a part of the brain over here and I get sound. Oh, right? That's interesting. Sound. The room is completely silent, but the person who is hearing, whose brain is being stimulated, hears sound. Now I know in the outside world there's a thing called sound. How is that made? When I clap my hands, molecules are made to move in the air. The molecules crash into the eardrum. They make these small bones move into the next part of the membrane in inner ear. That moves a liquid, makes fibers move within my ear. At the base of the fiber is nerves, and it induces a chemical reaction that I hear as sound. So I can make sound like this, or I can touch this part of the brain and it gets sound as well. That's interesting. The brain is wiring for me to hear something that actually exists outside. I touch another part of the brain and I see light. Or I bump my head in the dark and I see sparks of light. It's pitch black. Let's say it's a pitch black and I touch that part of the brain, or I bang my head by accident, I see light. Now that's interesting, because I know when I touch that part of the brain, I stimulate light also. It's the sensation of light, even though it's pitch black. And then I discover that out in the outer world there's radiations of a certain type of wavelength. Then when it hits the eye and the retina, it produces the sensation of light. So now I've got sound and light. I have the same thing for smell. I touch a place for smell and I get, oh wow, what am I being fed? Garlic? And I know that there's garlic out in the outside of the world that releases certain molecules. Touch part of the nose, nerves in here, and it stimulates that sensation or any other smell, roses whatsoever. So what I've discovered is no matter where I touch my brain, if I get a sensation of something, that sensation maps onto reality outside the world. It is true that there are radiations outside of our body that induce the sensation of light, and we get that sound, etc. Now I touch a certain part of the brain, and lo and behold, and this is done by quite a few persons, and lo and behold, I get a certain part of the brain, and phenomenally, I get the sensation of a phantom me, of a part of me that's not in my brain, like a phantom of a metaphysical me outside my body. See, the problem here is every other place that I've touched, I've in the brain, I've stimulated a reality that exists outside in the world. Now suddenly I touch a part over here and I get the sensation of a phantom me. The difficulty in mapping the phantom me in the physical world is it's not physical, it's metaphysical. But the physical part of this duo is present, of this duality. That is to say, the brain senses it. It is completely consistent. If I am going to believe my scientific method, then I have to say, sight in brain, sight outside. Sound brain, sight out, sound outside. Smell, etc., etc., etc. Touch, even touch. I have to be consistent with my scientific method and say, you know what? There really is a phantom me outside, and it is the phantom me that talks to me, and that is really the me. In fact, if you read the quotes, the philosophical quotes of the second person scientist to get a Nobel Prize in quantum physics, Erwin Schrödinger. I'm Schroeder, we dropped the ing. Erwin Schrödinger, he says, we are not in this physical picture. The reason that we think we are in the physical picture is our brains and our bodies are in the physical world. You know what that's saying? The act is exactly what we feel, that we are not a physical thing. We are not a physical entity having a spiritual experience. We are a spiritual entity having a physical experience. And what that means as far as life goes, that death may mark the end of the body's participation in life, but that's the body's participation in life. Life continues after that.